This is my new paper replacement, the Supernote A5 X2. It has the closest writing feel to pen on paper of any ink tablet I've tried, with a pen that doesn't need a battery and a ceramic tip that never needs to be replaced. It's durable as can be with an all-plastic design that also comes with sustainability, modularity, and user replaceability in mind. It even comes with a screwdriver to replace the battery and chip. The company that makes it, Ratta, provides free cloud storage as well, with an additional expandable micro SD card. This is an intentionally restrictive device that helps you regain your focus in a world where smartphones and tablets have become truly invasive. This is the Supernote Manta. Now, my journey to get to the Manta started a long time ago, originally with the Remarkable 1, and then bringing me to the Remarkable 2, which really helped my kind of organizational workflow for things like even this channel, which kind of pushed me into this digital note-taking space and has basically made me explore a lot of the options. And having an outlet to share this stuff eventually brought me to the Nomad and then now the Manta. And so there are a lot of reasons I think this makes paper obsolete as a digital analog device to bring your written notes into the digital world with a ton of organizational features that I'll discuss in this video as well. It's a very intentional and focused device that is really conducive towards creativity versus consumption. So let's get into the Supernote A5 X2 and why it's so powerful. And if you're a regular viewer of my channel, you might be thinking, why are you reviewing this device? Because you do long-term reviews. And yes, you would be correct. But this device, because of the internals that are the same as the Nomad here, and the software, which I've been now using for a year, about almost to the day I've been using the Nomad for a year, I thought that it was something that I'm very well familiar with now. And I'm so excited about it that I wanted to share my full thoughts in an earlier video. So getting into the form factor and the design of the Manta, it is obviously inspired by a manta ray, and that is due to the kind of port here and the power button where it's like the eyes of the Manta. And then the overall tapered outside design is very reminiscent of the Manta's shape and the fins on it and whatnot. But this type of biomimicry is something we've seen pretty steadily in technology over the years, where function in nature follows form. So things like the Shinkansen from Japan, the high-speed train that is inspired by the kingfisher bird and the front shape, or LED lights and the kind of lattice structure inside of LEDs that is from a firefly. So it's kind of cool when you see these symbiotic nature-inspired designs, and that is the Manta. But going into the actual back, like I kind of showed a little bit earlier, it has a fully modular design. The motherboard or the SoC, the system on a chip, is replaceable with the Nomad. The battery is a little bit bigger at 3,600 milliamp hours versus 2,700 on the Nomad, but these are all replaceable. And then you can also insert a micro SD card here if you want extra storage as well. But it does have cloud storage and you have a good amount of internal storage here. For battery life, I also did a video on optimizing your Supernote's battery, so you can check that out above. But I'll also point you to my friend Jeffrey Moss's video he just did recently, where he goes way more in depth about the battery life. But in general, like most e-ink devices, it is very good on this. There is a new Half Folio design. I'll talk a little bit more about the Half Folio design when I talk about some accessories that I use with this device, because I do think there are some accessories that might be coming for the Folio. But then the star of the show is the new screen. This is a Carta 1300 screen, and if you're not familiar, that is the latest in the black and white tech of e-ink screens. So the Nomad, for example, was Carta 1000, and it was a glass screen. So the writing feel is a little bit different on the Nomad versus the actual Manta here. The Nomad feels like maybe a few sheets of paper on a hard surface, and this feels like almost like a pad of paper because it has that plastic screen flex, which also lends to a more durable design in general, whereas plastic bends, glass normally breaks, as you saw from my drop test in the beginning. Sheila has actually been using it for over a month now. She had a test unit. She goes by Entryline on Instagram and on YouTube here. So I'll link her channel if you want to check her stuff out. She's a very talented artist as well. But here are her thoughts on the general durability of the device after having been the person that's kind of used it the longest in the wild.
Definitely had some reservations on the durability of the Manta because of the Half Folio design and how thin it was. So when I took it on vacation with me, I was pleasantly surprised. Not only did it survive this falling off the York wall, but it also survived me accidentally stepping on it.
That kind of brings me to the next point of just the modularity and the replaceability of everything. That's something that a long time ago when I took an engineering and public policy course, I learned a lot about like electronics and the impact they have in kind of the overall world. And so devices that have these replaceable parts and modularity and sustainability in mind, that is something that I'm very passionate about. I'll be putting out a review of this soon. But the Manta follows suit with its little brother, the Nomad. And while no consumer electronic company is fully green because by nature they're creating things that will have an eventual end of life, this aims to extend the lifespan. And so something that, in a device that might last you 3-4 years, this could potentially last you 5 to 10 because you can keep upgrading the components. And that is certainly a possibility with the Nomad and the Manta here, and something that Ratta, the team that makes Supernote, has really thought out. And there are EU laws coming out even that will require things like this to exist, with battery replacements and other components being easily upgradable. So there's a few companies like that, the Framework, the Fairphone, this device now, and that's something that I think we will start to see a lot more going forward, but they're really ahead of the game in this respect. Also, full disclosure, Ratta, the company that makes these Supernotes, did send it to me, but the opinions in this video are all my own, and I would not have created over 20 videos on the Supernote platform if I wasn't incredibly passionate about it. So really quickly, if you're not familiar with the Supernote platform, I want to show you on the desk why the organizational power and the workflow is so strong on here with a quick little demo of something I've been working on the past couple days, which will hopefully give you a visual representation of why. Now this is an interesting concept for a home page. Traditionally on the Supernote platform, there is no dedicated home page. For example, on my Nomad, you can see I use the quick access feature to link to my important documents. You can also reference that review if you want to see more about the gestures on Supernote. However, because the Supernote platform has a lot of intelligent features, you're able to create versions of one. For example, here I crafted a page that functions like a home page. I drew 9 images for my content creation process and then was able to link each one to a note that I already have for that aspect of the process. A simple tap on the image with a link will take me there. This can also be done with an imported template if you don't draw. Since I've learned a lot more about the features on the Supernote, I'm rebuilding my Manta's organizational flow from scratch. I'll build 3 home pages within this note, adding 1 for business and 1 for personal items, making it almost like a virtual desktop on your computer where you can switch seamlessly between workflows. Then I just have 1 link in the quick access, which can get me to any file I need. And then within the documents, you have headers, keywords, and searchable OCR. I plan on making a dedicated video of the Supernote workflow as well as templates, so stay tuned for that. This is just a snippet of what's possible. And then getting a little more into the hardware, we have a lot of the pens here, and so there are a wide variety of options. The new one is the Lamy Safari Vista EMR, which has a new Supernote ceramic custom refill in here, and this is an all plastic pen. Then there is the Lamy Twin. This is a new pen to me also, but it's pretty cool. I plan on traveling with this a lot because it has one way the ceramic, and then the other way it has a ballpoint pen. So you can just take one pen and be able to write on your Supernote or write on paper, which I rarely do anymore, but is a nice option to have. Then there's the Heart of Metal pen. It is the most premium feeling pen by far. It is kind of mostly metal with a plastic cartridge at the end. And it also comes in a wide variety of colors as well. Then there's the standard push-up pen. And this is one that is just very simple, but like the cheapest and just nice and clicky. I added a little grip here, which I talk about in my full Nomad review. I did a pretty extensive review of this, so I'll link that above if you want to check that out. So really quickly talking about pricing, the Manta is $459, and the Half Folio here is $59. And then the pens, as you can maybe probably not see here, but it's kind of small. But the Vista is $89. The Heart of Metal are $75, unless you get the Samurai, which is more expensive at $89. The Twin Safari is $89, and then the standard push-up is $59. but you can also get a ceramic refill and make your own custom pen. And Supernote is one of the only ones that offers that kind of experience. And that's something that other manufacturers that have the like specific pens that are made for the device, they do not give that option. And so there's Etsy sellers that will sell like specific 3D printed things where you could put it in your favorite type of pen, which is just really cool in general. I do plan on doing a full kind of pen overview video, so I'll link that here when it's done. But generally for the pricing, they do not do sales, and they have a specific article they listed of why they don't do that. But if you're finding this review helpful and you want to support the channel, the best way to do that is to purchase through the links below at no additional cost to you. Now, one minor oversight, I think, is that the pen loop here, if you're someone that just pops the pen out and starts writing, then this actually like lifts the device a little bit when it's on the table. More so on the Lamy pen here than the Heart of Metal pen. But obviously if you're using either of these pens, they fully come out, so that's not an issue. But that is something that can be addressed because, you know, going back to the modularity, that's something here that you can remove these screws and make a custom pen loop. Whereas like on the Nomad, the built-in pen loop, I don't have that issue. But that's something that certainly people on Etsy can make extended pen loops, or they provide tools in the package to, if you want to make your own, to attach things to that. And so that's obviously modular, or you could just remove it if you wanted to. And if you saw in Sheila's video, you can also attach an adhesive extra pen loop if you want the pen to kind of slot in and have a bottom part that it attaches to, so it doesn't dangle at all. So going back to the durability, it is all plastic now, like I said, and so it is quite durable. But the back is a relatively like hard plastic, and the folio will pop right out. So you can use it completely without it, and it is very light at 375 grams. Well, you can see the back kind of clicks on here. Now, the reason the pens are so special is that they have these ceramic nibs that are never replace nibs, so you don't need to keep swapping them like you do on other devices that have replaceable tips. And the way they're able to do that is they worked with Wacom, the company that makes these EMR devices, which are electromagnetic resonance. That's kind of the way it works with the device. Essentially what's happening here is when you create contact on the device, it's pulling these little microcapsules with a positive and negative charge, and it's raising those to the surface. So that's how it kind of works. And on this device, you have Feelwrite 2, which is a protective film that they've worked with the company Wacom that makes the technology for these. And it basically creates a protective self-healing film that has also been tuned to feel exactly like paper and pen. And so you get almost like a texture and like a resistance. And that actually, the first couple of days you use it, it has a break-in period, so it'll feel a little bit smoother after you've used it for a while. But in my experience, and I've tried all these devices, it is the most like pen and paper. The Remarkable might feel a little bit more like pencil and paper, but this feels like pen and paper. And it provides a completely unique experience of writing in the e-ink world. Now, one of the nice things too about this screen when compared to a standard A5, like 10.3 inch size, is it's 10.65, so it's a little bit bigger. And so with the sidebar and the kind of bottom information, you will roughly get the same size visible screen area, which almost equates to a 10.3 inch size. So you get a little bit of extra real estate compared to these 10.3 or the 10.2 standards that are on the market. And it's really nice when viewing PDFs. Also, the ability to annotate PDFs is great, but even more importantly, the digest feature allows you to highlight things and then look at your digested information in a logical structure. And you can also look at comments. Split screen is also supported with the gyro. The Supernote Partner app is good, and it's available on the computer or on mobile, and screen sharing is pretty seamless if you're on the same network as your Supernote. Which brings me into my next kind of point, is the Android sideloading. Now, Brandon Boswell and Ed for Organizing for Change have done videos on how to sideload, and so if you use Mac or Windows respectively, those two channels are good to look at, and I'll link those below if you want to know how to sideload on Android. But basically, you connect the computer up and you download the APKs of the Android files, you can put them on. The fact that it doesn't have Google Play, I think makes me much more intentional about what apps I download. And so I'd probably have like 10, maybe 12 apps. I did a full Android video of Android apps on Supernote, so I will be doing a part 2 at some point. And if you would like to kind of see some other apps tested, then go to that video, comment there, and I will try to do those in part 2. But the list is getting quite long, so that might be a pretty lengthy video of part 2. Now, one of the pain points I've found between multiple devices is the syncing. It's very kind of nitpicky and just slow in general. You can see here an example of syncing of how the speed is like under a megabyte per second. So that's something that I've had slight issues with myself, like even this script I wrote on here, and then I think this one updated and overwrote this one. So that's something I think that Supernote should really focus on, is getting the app experience to be kind of top notch. Because in my opinion, like the Remarkable 2 and the Remarkable Paper Pro, the app syncing, you do have to pay $2.99 per month for it, but it works seamlessly. And like on document close, when I add something here, it'll then just show up here when I open it. And I think that's the kind of experience of syncing they need to pursue here. Now, going back to accessories, I do believe, like from the Nomad, the pogo pins for accessories are on the top here, and they have switched to them on the side, as you can see here. So I think that lends very well to, like the Type Folio on the Remarkable, some form of actual keyboard design, where then you could have a keyboard directly integrated. Right now, I did test the keyboard support, and it's, for some reason, the Bluetooth keyboard is faster on the Nomad than it is on the Manta. I've seen some other people like Brandon try it, and Ed from Organizing for Change has told me that he had this similar experience on the Manta. So it might just need a software update to get the lag to be better. And that kind of transitions into two things. So the first is latency, and I've noticed the latency is slightly better from the Nomad. I did a very non-scientific test, but it looked like it was a split faster than the Nomad, and that might be due to the new Carta 1300 panel. But the pen to paper distance also feels better. And these are both non-scientific tests. I probably need to get better camera gear if I want to truly test that out, but it's definitely a little bit noticeable. I don't think the latency is going to be as fast as the Paper Pro at 0.12 seconds, but the Nomad is 0.25, and I've reached out to Ratta to get the specs of the latency of the Manta. So I don't know exactly what it is yet, but I'll definitely put that in the description or a comment below it when I find that out. So it's good to see those little improvements all around. And then the accessories I use, I've talked about these a bunch in the Nomad video I did, but these are some of the accessories that I find to be useful. While the Manta and the Nomad don't have shape or line snapping support yet, I do find that these are useful tools to use and things that have genuinely been useful. The beta of the new Remarkable has shape support because some guy on Reddit was pestering them, which was awesome to see. But that's something I think Supernote's a little bit behind in, and I do think they're working on it from some Reddits I read, but hopefully that comes here soon in the Note app and in Atelier, because that's very useful for artists as well. Speaking of Atelier, I have done a full extensive review where I interviewed an illustrator who tried my device, and so I'll link that above for you guys if you want to check that out. But there have been some slight updates, like the gesture control in Atelier now works for undo, redo. And for example, I drew this and I posted this screensaver on Reddit the other day for people to download if they wanted to put on their Manta or their Nomad or whatever, and just to get excited for the device. And someone commented about like export size, and I was like, oh, that's actually a great idea. And someone from Supernote replied right after and was like, we will look into this, and that's something we're gonna add. So that's just really cool to see. But I will pass it along to Sheila, who has been using this device for, like I said, over a month now. And here are some of her experiences of drawing on it as well.
One other thing that I love about the Manta is the increase in the DPI. So now the Manta is increased to 300 DPI as opposed to the A5X, which has a DPI of 226. So I use the Atelier app religiously, usually for my anatomical drawings. When I compare the amount of detail that I can see on the Manta compared to the A5X, for me it's like night and day.
And so that also brings me to the next topic, which is kind of the community support and the Trello updates. So they give tools for you to custom make a lot of things. Like if you wanted to make specific cases for this, they provide like the magnets and all that. and the specifications. And for software requests, you can do that specifically through the device. You can do feature requests, but there's also a Trello board, so you can see the roadmap of everything they're working on and what they have planned to come. So one thing I'm really hoping for is now that they have bigger devices, and eventually they'll have an A4 sized one. Who knows what that one will be called, but that would be like split screen would be a really cool feature to add, and I believe they are working on that as well. So things like that you can check out on their update roadmap. And Ratta is very involved in the community on the Reddit and the Facebook group, and they really do listen to their community. If you haven't followed any of the news this past year, it was almost to a fault where like they were listening too much and disclosing a lot of information. So when things got delayed, like customer base got upset. So I think they're trying to find a fine line between that now, and hopefully they learned a lot from that. But it is really cool to get inside scoops like that from the company itself. The device itself doesn't have a Frontlight, so that the pen to paper distance can be closer as well. And that's by design. They wrote a whole article on it too. Supernote also has stated that they're not really focused on color at all because it's for those who write, and the screen tech in color devices is just really not 100% there yet. It's good, but it's not great. This device really is the future of paper. Like I mentioned in the title, like I think this makes paper obsolete. I rarely ever use paper anymore, and these devices, and this one in specific, is the reason why, because of the organizational power. If you're trying to build something like a second brain, it gives you that workflow and that organizational structure that is very conducive to that. If you want to see my review of the Nomad, you can check that out here. It's a pretty extensive one, but I also have other Supernote videos here that you can check out. And if you have any comments or questions on either of these devices, you can drop them below and I'll get back to you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.